Do you ever wonder how to actually make your nature studies a little more, I don't know, academic wise? Or maybe perhaps your children just absorb nature and you'd like an opportunity to make it more of a keepsake or something more meaningful to them besides just taking their nature walks or being observant outside. If this sounds like something that appeals to you, I'm excited to share with you some things that we've done in our family that actually takes what you do with Charlotte Mason and turns it into not just a keepsake, but a wonderful portfolio that you can use to show your state's requirements that they were done. And in addition to that, be able to help your children enjoy learning and find a delight in nature study. I'm Dolly Freeman. I am the blogger behind the Charlotte Mason Way and the creator of the Charlotte Mason Planning Framework. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how to turn nature study into books. And I've got a couple of books that happen to be my favorite that I want to show you that our children made. So if this looks familiar or is this looks exciting, I want you to say hello for me. Let me know where you're watching and just comment in the comments. Say hello in the comments so I know that you're here. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about some things that you might want to be thinking about when you're having your children in your nature studies so that you can, in fact, create these wonderful keepsakes. These are actually quite many years old. I decided to bring out two of them, one a smaller one and one a larger one to kind of give you these ideas. So these two are pretty old. These are from my older children years back. So here's the thing I want you to know. Your children decide the animal in which they're going to study. So number one, that hits the thing of the children will delight in this. Hello, Amy from Tennessee. Hello, Streetra. I'm so bad at names. So hello to you from YouTube. This looks very interesting. Hello, Rosemary. Mary, yes. Nice to have you here. And hello to James Charman. And it's really great to have you guys here. I guess I'm actually live on Facebook. I was told I wasn't going to be able to go live on Facebook for 30 days from something I posted on my personal page. So I'm happy to see that we're live over there. That just makes me so tickled. Okay, so these are going Street Rat. Thank you. I always love those helps. So let me tell you a little bit about these, okay? So their first step, if you're taking notes, is that you're going to want your children to choose their own animal. It can be, a flying animal, a mammal. It could be something from the ocean. It doesn't matter. Your children are the ones who are going to choose their topic for their book out of their nature studies. And then you're going to be having them have particular things you expect to be put into this book. Depending on their age limit, you actually have a few extra things, or their ages, you can actually add a few extra assignments in there, which is really good. So a couple of things that you probably are already thinking about what a child could add to these is poetry. So poetry is something that we really love. And honestly, our children, if you can see, they name it the Wolves. They find pictures everywhere out of magazines. We had a whole lot of magazines at the time. So they would just spend one afternoon clipping out the animals in there and keeping them in a bin to go through. This particular one is a photocopy of one of my daughter's favorite book. So she took a photocopy of this, put it on her printer, printed it out. So they have used glue sticks, I think, or maybe even glue, but double-sided tape works best. It doesn't create the ripples in it like glue normally does. So become that. And then in the craft section, like scrapbooking, they have those squares. They're really good double-sided squares. They're perfect for this. Hello, High Touch family. Nice to see you here. Okay, so poetry. I always like the name and the dates to go inside, but poetry is something that I always made sure our children added. Sometimes I also required Bible verses depending if I knew if the animal was in the Bible or not. They are nicely done, and that's why I wanted to show you. So original drawings is something that I always required from our kids because they love sketching. So, and then tracks and pause. I hope you guys can see this okay. And then explanations. I expected them to actually, like what Charlotte Mason says as exam questions. I pretty much asked them, I expect you to know about what their tracks look like and be able to explain their feet in great detail. Because oftentimes it's the feet that tell an animal apart, and it got them excited about tracking. And then on our nature walk, they would begin looking for tracking. So this led to a whole lot of excitement. And as you can see, my daughter actually decided to design tracks all along this. And then she talked about the howling. So then the body parts. So now you're getting into biology. So labeling the body parts, talking about the different fangs. And then she actually talked about the alpha and how the dogs work with each other. So she brought in some of her own topics based on her nature study. We would make sure we had books from the library. We spent time on the internet, letting her research and pull out the information. And she was literally pulling all this information together based on things I would request of her to know. I would want to know what kind of predator they were, what their prey was, who their predators were, their habitat, their food. And then she actually added the mating parts in this. And then about their babies, I wanted to know everything about their infants, what they were called, what they looked like, those type of things. And then she went a little further with this and talked about the differences between a dog and a wolf. Their migration or their travel habits was something I also wanted to know about. The different types of wolves or different types of animals, because dogs, oh my goodness, a child can go forever on the different types of dogs. So and here's something that I really loved, and they took a whole term on one animal. So they really took a lot of time. This was not something we rushed in. They really were very diligent in these. But I had them add a story. So they were doing the written composing of their own story based on an animal. So her stories were always really long. I mean, several pages of stories. And then at the end of her stories, this is a lot of pages, she actually drew pictures of the characters inside her stories. So that is this one. The bigger books are harder. I'm going to tell you there's a challenge with these. I really wouldn't recommend doing these books unless your child's in middle school or high school for the bigger books. The smaller books, you're going to have to most likely help them. Let's see how old my daughter was with this one. She was in 9th grade. So that's why the story was here. This one was an earlier one. Let's see. This one doesn't even have a date. So there's that. But this was an earlier one, probably more around 5th or 6th grade. The pages, it takes a lot more to fill in. So geography is something you could bring it in. The buffalo really allows you to know about the different geography, and that's animals is a perfect opportunity for child to learn about that. Again, the hoofs, and you can see they're decorated a little different because they were younger. And this particular child did not like to write a lot or draw a lot, which is why it's more bland and more colored versus sketching. And what I loved in this particular one, we did not have a story. They were too early to write a creative story. I tried, but not success. But this particular one, I loved because we studied Native Americans during that time. And so the buffalo was very important to the Native Americans. And so there's a list of everything that the Native Americans would use a buffalo for. So these are amazing things. But if you're going to get a bigger one, I would get a bigger blank book. I would get that for your older children, not your younger ones. We started them out this big, and we moved to this size because we just realized that was enough. These were just too big. So the blank books we got at, I think it was Miller's and Pads. Miller's, Miller's Pads, I think is the name of it. They're at a lot of conventions, but you can get them online as well. But just blank books with blank papers is all that you really need. So they glue the pictures on the outside and the inside. Some of them are glued. Others we used double-sided tape, which can get very expensive. We had found the glue makes like a ripple on the paper. It's not a very good resource to use for these. But we started using the squares that you would find in like the scrapbooking section. And that worked perfectly. It allowed the children not to use too much, like was the issue with the double-sided tape. It didn't require me to babysit them. And, just teach them to put them on the corners. And if it's a really big, like this particular one is a pretty big, this is actually glue and it's coming apart. So I need to be careful. But I would tell them to put, on the two corners, 2 here and 2 here to keep them there. We would also find stickers. We would get them stickers if they got real excited about an animal and they knew they would want to do it. If we came across stickers in Michael's or whatever, we would buy them in preparation for that book. Some of the books that we have done is sharks, snakes, whales, squids. One year we did a squid. My son did a squid. And then land animals, lions, tigers. Rather than just doing cats, they did a lion book and then they did a tiger book. So we pretty much focused on cats that year. And so there's just so many. We did birds, we did dinosaurs. There's just so many options that you can do. As your children get older, that's where the beauty comes in these, that you can actually give them their assignments, leave them alone, and let them get them done. When they're younger, this is a more of a hands-on, mom has to help. So if you have a lot of little kids, you might want to do a family one, which makes it kind of hard when they get a little older. They kind of want ownership of their books. So you're going to have to decide what works best for your family. And if it is something where you have to be more hands-on, I would recommend no more than 1 or 2 books a year until you get your kids kind of trained in what you are expecting, help them to know how to find the resources themselves, how to be able to research what it means when you're asking for the habitats and the predators and the prey, and their tracking and being able to describe them. That's really important so that they can actually retain the information and know how to retell it to answer the questions that you're asking them to put into the book. So yeah, these books are very cherished in our home, very exciting. And this next school year, our 10-year-old is going to start doing them in his schooling. So he's going to be excited about these. So at 10, 5th grade, I only require 1 per term, and not as many, like original stories would not be in there. We usually do original stories around 7th grade because at that point they're really good at it. And then at high school, they really can put a whole lot in there. And I don't always require them of that. We kind of switch. I mean, this one was done in 9th grade, so I still required it some in high school. Actually, you know what? I think this was one. Now that I think about it, I think this is one she did on her own because wolves were something that she really got excited about. And I think that's why she was a writer in 9th and 10th grade. She wrote all the time. So I think that's why we had such a long story in that one. Okay, any last minute questions on this before we end this week's call? I want to make sure you guys know that I have some really good, exciting things planned. I'm going to keep it under my hat right now, just to make sure everything works fine on Facebook, because right now I was under the impression I wouldn't be able to come live based on something I posted on my personal site or my personal page. Facebook said I couldn't go live or advertise for 30 days. So it looks as though I'm live. I see a lot of comments in Facebook and on YouTube. So it's nice to know that I'm still able to go live. So I might still be able to go with my date. So be watching for that. All right. Well, then I will see you next week on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to actually be talking about the different methods of homeschooling. I'm going to talk about traditional, unschooling, and Charlotte Mason, and what makes them different with each other. So it's going to be a really informative one. I know a lot of people right now are contemplating homeschooling for the very first time, and they're coming along with a whole lot of questions about these different aspects and how things look so different and what makes the one better than the other. So I'm going to be talking about those three particular: traditional, unschooling, and Charlotte Mason, to help you guys understand the difference between all three of them and why Charlotte Mason is such a good method, regardless of where you're starting. The Charlotte Mason Way Show is on YouTube. The Charlotte Mason Way Show, if you're looking for YouTube, and you guys are so. You're not wearing a hat. I don't know what that means. Anyways, so you're welcome for sharing. I hope you guys add these into your homeschooling. I think you're going to really enjoy them. And then I look forward to seeing you next week at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Savings Time, in case you're not doing daylight. And then I'll see you then. So bye for now.